Emirates owns well over 100 of the biggest passenger jets ever built. And Emirates shut down the A380 production line for good back in 2021. Every single Airbus A380 flying for Emirates right now is a plane that can be never swapped out for a new one, because brand new ones simply don't exist. And the second-hand A380 market? Good luck with that. So Emirates is sitting on a fleet worth tens of billions of dollars, with no production line, no spare parts factory, and honestly, no obvious exit plan. This is the story of how the world's most famous superjumbo operator backed itself into a corner, and why the bill for flying its way out could run past $50 billion. Let's rewind to the mid-2000s. Airbus had just rolled out the biggest passenger plane in history, a genuine double-decker monster with room for over 500 seats, and most airlines politely looked away. Emirates, however, looked at it and said, "Give me as many as you can build." By the time the order book closed, Emirates had committed to 123 of them, almost more than every other airline on the planet combined. The first one touched down in Dubai in 2008. The very last A380 ever assembled rolled off a production line that had run since 2003, touching down in December 2021, wearing Emirates colours. Out of the 251 A380s ever delivered to airlines worldwide, Emirates today owns 116 of them, with around 110 operational after retiring a handful of its earliest frames. Nobody else is even close. So why did Emirates go all in on a plane that many others avoided entirely? Well, geography mostly. Sitting almost perfectly between Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas, Dubai became the ideal spot to funnel global travellers through one mega hub instead of scattering them across smaller direct routes. Pack 500 plus people onto one aeroplane, land them in Dubai, then redistribute them across the world. On paper, it was genius, and indeed for about a decade it worked incredibly well. And Emirates didn't just buy these jets to move passengers, it used them to build an entire brand. Onboard showers in first class, a bar at the back of business class, suites with closing doors instead of just regular seats. No other airline turned the A380 into quite as much of a flying showroom. For a while, simply mentioning that you were flying the Emirates A380 said something special about the kind of trip you were taking. While Emirates kept ordering, almost everyone else who'd got on board changed their mind about the A380. And the reason boils down to one brutal figure: fuel. A peer-reviewed study comparing real flight data found the Airbus A350 is about 1.34 times more fuel efficient than the A380 at the same load factor, and close to twice as efficient when carrying identical payloads. Separate research looking at trans-Pacific routes has found that twins like the Airbus A350 and the Boeing 787 burn around 40 to 50% less fuel per passenger than the A380, although that does vary depending on configuration and load factor. 4 engines and 2 decks certainly look impressive parked on the tarmac, but 4 engines also means significantly more engine maintenance and a much bigger fuel bill on every single flight. Passenger habits shifted too. Many airlines stopped funneling everyone through giant hub airports and leaned into flying smaller jets directly between cities, because that's what travellers actually want. Although a few people still do value the stopover in Dubai or Singapore, a non-stop flight beats a connection even on a fancy double-decker for most travellers. Airbus saw where this was heading. After sinking an estimated $25 billion into developing the A380 and never fully recovering that money, they shut the production line in 2021. Output had peaked at 30 aircraft a year back in 2012 and 2014. By the end, orders had dried up so badly that Emirates was the last customer keeping the line alive. Once Emirates trimmed its final order, Airbus pulled the plug for good. So here's where that $50 billion headline comes from. Nobody at Emirates has stamped that exact figure on an official press release, but stack up the pieces, and it's not hard to see how analysts land somewhere in that range. Let's start with the retrofit. Emirates is midway through a $6 billion program to rip out and rebuild cabins across its A380 fleet, adding new premium economy seating and refreshed interiors everywhere. Stripping one aircraft down used to take 6 weeks, but Emirates now squeezed that down to 16 days, with a full refit taking about 18 months for the whole fleet. That's $6 billion committed before a single extra dollar of revenue comes in. Then there's that fuel premium I mentioned. Multiply that 1.34 to 2 times efficiency gap against an A350 by well over 100 aircraft, by however many years Emirates keeps them flying, and you're already talking billions more in extra fuel spend compared to running an equivalent twin-engine fleet doing the same job. Then we had maintenance. The oldest Emirates A380s entered service back in 2008. Some are pushing 18 years old today, and Tim Clark, Emirates' president, has said the airline plans to keep flying the type until at least 2041. That means certain airframes could still be in the sky at 33 years old. Older jets inevitably need more frequent heavy checks, and with 4 engines instead of 2 and more engine overhauls, that inspection bill doubles up fast. Emirates has become smart about it, building up a large inventory of spare parts by tearing down retired A380s for components, since new parts from Airbus are getting harder to source. Clever, but it's still a cost nobody else in the industry has to carry at this scale. Finally, there's resale value, or rather a near total lack of it. Almost nobody wants to buy a second-hand A380. The type demands specialised pilot training, dedicated airport gates, and parts that get scarcer every year now production's ended. When other airlines retired the A380s early, several were simply scrapped for parts because no buyer ever showed up. Unlike a 777 or an A350, Emirates can't just sell off the jets it no longer needs. It either keeps flying them, or it eats the loss outright. Stack the retrofit bill, the fuel penalty, the rising maintenance costs on an aging fleet, and a resale market that barely exists, and a $50 billion lifetime price tag for keeping this fleet flying into the 2040s starts looking less like a clickbait number and more like fairly simple arithmetic. So the part that turns this from an accounting headache into an actual problem is that Emirates can't just trade these jets in for something newer and bigger, because nothing newer and bigger is being built. The plane that many thought would eventually pick up some of the slack is the Boeing 777X, specifically the 777-9 variant. After adding 65 more aircraft to their order at the Dubai Air Show in November 2025, Emirates is now waiting on 270 of them, making it by far the largest 777X customer in the world. The catch is that the 777X has become one of the most delayed aircraft programs in modern aviation history. Boeing originally targeted deliveries for way back in 2020. As things stand now, the first 777X is expected to reach Emirates around the second quarter of 2027 at the earliest, 7 years late and counting, and even then it typically carries around 400 to 420 passengers, well short of the 500 plus seats packed into a standard A380. The Airbus A350-1000 isn't the answer either. It's efficient, it's modern, and Emirates already flies dozens of A350-900s with more of the 1000 variant on order, but it simply doesn't have the capacity to replace what a superjumbo carries. And going back to Airbus for more A380s obviously isn't on the table at all. The tooling's gone, the supplier network has moved on to other programs, and Airbus has shown zero appetite for restarting a program that never paid back its own development costs in the first place. So Emirates is left doing the one thing it actually can do, squeezing as much life as possible out of the jets it already owns, through that retrofit program, through its growing spare parts stockpile, while it waits on a Boeing delivery date that keeps sliding further into the future. While Emirates went all in, every other airline treated the A380 like a niche tool rather than the backbone aircraft. As of mid-2026, roughly 186 Airbus A380s remained in active service worldwide, with a further 36 in storage and 24 already scrapped. Emirates alone accounts for well over 100 of them, meaning one single airline controls somewhere around 60% of all the A380s still flying on the planet. Compare that to the competition. Qatar Airways operates just 8 A380s, and even grounded much of that small fleet for a stretch in early 2026 due to low demand. Etihad has 9, with one airframe still in storage. Singapore Airlines and British Airways have 12 each. Lufthansa, Korean Air, and Qantas all have kept a few A380s around for prestige long-haul routes, but none of them bet the entire company on the type the way Emirates did. That makes Emirates the industry's clearest test case. If the maths on flying super jumbos all the way into the 2040s works out, Emirates is the one who proves it. If it doesn't, Emirates is the one absorbing the cost, because at this point, nobody else has enough A380s left to share the pain. It's a fairly lonely place to stand, being the airline that everyone else used as a cautionary tale, flying more of the type than the rest of the planet combined. But here's the twist that keeps this from being a straightforward disaster story. Right now, Emirates is making more money than at any point in its 41-year history. For the financial year ending March 2026, the Emirates Group posted a record profit before tax of $6.6 billion, with the airline itself contributing $6.2 billion of that, despite a disrupted final month caused by regional military tensions. The A380 plays a real role in why. On the routes where it makes sense, Dubai to London, Dubai to New York, and other high-demand corridors, a fully loaded A380 still pulls in serious revenue, especially through the premium cabins that Emirates has built its entire brand around. Tim Clark isn't quietly winding these jets down either. He's told Aviation Week directly that Emirates intends to keep flying the A380 until at least 2041, with the active fleet actually growing towards those 110 operational aircraft by the end of 2026. Meanwhile, Emirates isn't ignoring the future. As I mentioned, it holds firm orders for dozens of Airbus A380s, with fresh deliveries landing every year, plus that massive 270-strong 777X order waiting in the wings for whenever Boeing finally sorts itself out. The plan looks less like denial and more like a calculated bridge. Keep the A380s flying and profitable for as long as demand and the economics support it, lean on the A350 to grow efficient long-haul capacity in the meantime, and then bring the 777X online whenever it actually shows up. My personal take from the industry is that this isn't a carrier in denial, it's a carrier flying a deliberate holding pattern. Grounding a profitable wide-body before its replacement actually exists is how you lose slots at a capacity-constrained airport like Dubai, not how you save money. The real tell is the spares strategy. An airline cannibalizing retired airframes for parts isn't panicking, it's doing exactly what you'd expect from an operator planning to outlast its own aircraft supply chain. Whether that bridge holds for another 15 years is the question nobody can honestly answer yet. So let's run this down then. Emirates bet bigger on the A380 than any airline in history, ordering 123 of them. And that number's actually down from what they originally ordered. But then the market flipped. Twin-engine jets proved themselves to be far more efficient, and Airbus completely shut down the A380 production line in 2021. That left Emirates holding over 100 of these giants, with no true replacement in sight, since the 777X, which will be the closest, keeps slipping in terms of its delivery date, and while the A350 is a fantastic aircraft and very efficient, it's just not big enough to do the job. Add up the retrofit bills, the fuel penalty, the rising maintenance costs on an aging fleet, and the resale market that's effectively non-existent, and you can see the long-term cost for holding these jets does rise towards that $50 billion figure that analysts keep talking about. And yet, Emirates has just posted its most profitable year ever, and Tim Clark assures everyone that Emirates is going to keep flying the A380 through until 2041. So is this a genius long game play, or is it the most expensive game of chicken in history? Well, I guess we're not really going to know the answer to that until well into the 2030s, when the oldest A380s are hitting their 30th birthday, and Emirates is having to make the real call. Until then, every one of their superjumbos keeps flying, keeps burning more fuel, keeps adding to the bill that only one airline seems to be stubborn enough, or brave enough, to keep paying. So what do you think? Is this an incredibly smart fleet decision by Emirates, or is it simply the biggest sunk cost in the sky? Drop me your take in the comments below, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping the skies. See you next time.